Hello, my fellow introverts. Stacy here, your programming and test automation expert. I'm really sorry, guys, that I wasn't here with you for quite some time. I was really busy with other projects from Introverted. These are, first of all, the video that you probably have already seen. It's from Karkonoshi Mountains. It took really a lot of time to make it, so please check it out if you haven't done it before. And we are talking there about learning programming and how to get into the industry. This is the Walking and Talking video 2, and there are going to be more soon. And apart from that, we were quite busy on making some courses, some new courses for you guys. So if you are looking into upgrading your skills, then please check them out. We have one course coming up in May. We have one in the summer, and we are going to have a couple of long ones in autumn. And also, we're going to organize hackathon soon, and you are very welcome to join. Just keep an eye on the posts in YouTube community as well, or in our other means of communication. We will have some prizes for those of you who will win, so check it out. Okay, so I think this is it. We can get back to the video. Today we are going to discuss Python function arguments and everything that you have to know about them. And we will start from the very basics, and then I will try to show you different stuff that were surprising for me. I didn't know about them. So check it out, and we will start in a moment. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and check the links in the description. And now it's time to get on with it. Alright guys, so let's start from the very beginning. We will define a function with no arguments, then we will start to add some arguments, and I'm going to explain you how it's being done and which types of arguments are there in Python. So if you know this stuff already, you can check it out, but of course you can just pass it to the next section if you are not interested into this basic information. So, but first of all, let's see how you define a function in Python, because maybe not all of you work with Python on a daily basis, so maybe this is going to be a useful information for you as well. So, to do that, we use the def statement, and then we pass the name of the function. So, let's call it do a print. Then we put those parentheses, and now we are given up with a choice whether we want to put any parameters here or not. We're not going to put any parameters here because we want to see how it works without any parameters. And then we need a colon, because in Python this is required. And then we have to put a body into this function. Just note that in other languages you could have just left the function empty, but in Python you cannot do that because you are doing everything with an indentation in a function, so you actually have to put at least something here. So what you can do, you can just put a pass if you want to leave it empty, and this is going to be fine. Now you can work with the script further and you can define some stuff in it. But we are going to actually put a print here. And let's tell no parameters for now. Okay, one thing that is left is to actually call the function and see if it works. Okay, no parameters, it has been executed, and we see the result of the print. Now, let's pass a parameter here. So let's make it a function with a parameter. So to do that, as I said before, we have to put a parameter name here inside of these braces. It doesn't matter how you name it. Once you name it, it works kind of like a variable for a function. So let's call it param. And instantly you can see that there is a highlight happening here. PyCharm is saying that something is wrong. And this means that we have to put a value for this param when we are invoking this function. So let's put a value here. Let's make it a 10. Now, if you look at it, it doesn't highlight anymore, so everything is cool. But we have one more thing to do. This parameter is actually not used anywhere inside of this function. So we have to use it somehow. And if we do a print, we are going to be able to put the param here. And now we can also modify our first print just to write out the param. Okay, so as you can see, it works. We have parameters 10. It has been passed correctly. So this is the first case, how to have a function with a parameter. One thing that you have to remember when discussing function parameters and arguments with your colleagues, well, everyone mixes it up, so it's fine if you don't remember it, but basically the parameters are the things that are being defined here in the function definition, and arguments are the things that you actually put as values to those parameters when you call the function. To remember it better, parameters starts with P, and these are like a placeholder, right? Something that you place in, like a placeholder for a function definition. And arguments are the actual values that you put into the function when you call it. So A, the actual value, arguments, P as a placeholder, parameter, right? So here you go. This is a very nice hint from somebody on Stack Overflow. Now, we can have a function with multiple parameters. Now we have only one parameter and we can add another one. So let's do that. Okay, same situation. As you can see, this started to highlight, so we have to put another parameter here. So let's just put it here. And instantly PyCharm is showing that we have param equal 10 and another param equals 11. Pretty cool. Please, if you are just starting your journey of programming and you're using PyCharm, for example, Community Edition, do remember that you don't have to write this param colon 10 and another param colon 11. A lot of people do so in the very beginning, but you actually don't have to do this. You just say 10 and 11, and this is the stuff that PyCharm is writing, right? So this is not the thing that you have to write. Okay, so now we have another param, and I suggest that we just put it here into the print so that we print them out. Okay, and we have 10, 11. Everything works fine, and this is one of the ways that you can pass in those arguments. We just pass them one by one. So if you pass 11 here and 10 here, they're going to switch places, right? So 11 will become a param instead of another param, and 10 is going to be another param. Order matters here, right? So when we pass the parameters, we have to remember that the order must be the same as we have defined the parameters here. So how would you pass them randomly? So there is another way of passing the arguments. So this way that we used right now is called positional arguments. So the position is very important here. So we basically have to keep the order, keep the position, and we have to pass in the parameters in the right order. But if we want to mix them up, right, and to pass them in a wrong order, but to correct parameters, then we need to use something which is called keyword arguments. So to do that, we would need to actually name them. So let's do it like this. Another param is 11 and param is 10. Let's run it. And now, as you can see, everything is the way it was before because we specifically said that param is 10 and another param is 11. So this is the way how you can actually switch them. One thing to remember here, when you're using keyword arguments and positional arguments, because you can use both, you have to first use the positional arguments and then you use the keyword arguments. If you have the situation like this and you want to use positional arguments, you cannot do it this way. Or even you cannot do it this way. Just say that param is 11 and then just pass 10 as a second parameter. This is not possible. The only way it will work is if you do this. All right? This way it will work. You cannot also do something like this because param was already passed, right? And now you have to pass another param or something else which is passed into this function. We will test it in a moment. But as you can see, doAprint got multiple values for argument param. So actually Python doesn't like this and we cannot overwrite it or do something like this. Okay, so what about the case if we have yet another param, right? So we have a third parameter. Let's put it here. Okay, and now let's try to pass them positionally, first of all. Okay, so we have 11, 10, 12. Everything works okay with the position arguments. So now we can do, for example, yet another param and another param. And this will still work because we have param, which is 11, and this is a positional argument. Then we are using keyword arguments to pass in the yet another param and another param in the wrong order because we are using keywords. We can also do like this. And then, of course, this will not work because we will already set another param and we will try to reset it again, right? So this is not cool. But if we put yet another param here and run it, then it will work. We can try one last thing with these positional and keyword arguments. We could do another param and then do yet another param, 13. And this still wouldn't work. So you cannot override arguments that you pass into the function. So this is actually not possible in Python. We haven't spoken about scoping yet, so let me show you a couple of things. Well, it's mostly logical enough. It's not JavaScript or something, but let's see how function arguments are being scoped. So the general rule is that the function arguments are scoped inside of this function and anything that is inner inside of this function. So if we go ahead in this situation and add another function inside of this function, let's call it inner function, right? And we can put the prints inside of this function, and then we need to call the inner function, of course. So like this, let's run it. And as you can see, actually this kind of works. So we can pass the A and B from the outer scope into the inner function. So we don't have to provide them here, right? So while calling, we don't have to provide them as function arguments. Of course, we can add additional arguments here. For example, C, as you can see, it's going to ask for the C to be added when we call the function. So let's add some number as well. Let's run it. And yeah, we have to put C here as well. Of course, this is not going to change anything. We're still going to have AB from the outer scope, and we're going to have C, which was provided from the outer scope via function arguments when we were calling the inner function. What we cannot do, we actually cannot print C here. This is not going to work because it's inside of the inner function. So we can run it, but we're going to get the error that name C is not defined. Of course, if you want to make it even more complicated, you can create def yet another inner function, right? And try these things out. Okay, yet another inner function. And as you can see, it still works. So we have 2, 3, 11. Everything works fine, and we're not going to get any issue with that. So long story short is that everything that we have on the top scope, on the outer scope, on the outer level goes inside pretty much without any issues. But if we have something in the inner scope, we cannot reach it from the outside. Same thing will apply to creating classes, right? So you can create a class inside of this function. And we can add an init here. Oh, yeah, sorry. I switched myself on classes and wrote a def here. Okay, and as you can see, nothing highlights here. If we create an instance of my class and without any parameters, of course, and run it, we are going, oh yeah, we need a self here as well, of course. And we are going to get our values printed out. Nothing special. But one thing I wanted to show you, and we're going to talk about this in another video because this is an interesting topic. We could do something like my class A equals my class, and let's say A1 equals my class. So this is a very good question for an interview. So you can ask this, what is going to be printed out? And as you might have guessed, if we run it, we're going to get 2 and 3 at the first call, and then A is going to be reassigned with my class instance, and the second time when init is going to be called, when we create this instance, we are already going to get this guy as A. So it's going to be overwritten, right? But this is quite logical, I believe. One interesting thing, which we're going to discuss in a separate video, because it actually requires a separate video for that. What if we have yet another inner function? So let's do that. And we're not going to do anything inside of this function. Let's just move this whole thing inside of this function and let's call it and see whether it behaves the same way. And as you can see, in this case, we're getting name error, free variable A, reference before assignment in enclosing scope. This is because we're getting this enclosing scope, which only happens inside of the inner functions. And this is some kind of a corner case here, I would say. So just be aware that if you do such thing inside of my func, it's going to work. But if you nest it a little bit more, then you are going to get such errors. So we're going to have another video about scoping, and I definitely want to talk to you about this and show you more examples.